Hey, Dr. Melissa Robinson-Winemiller here. Oftentimes when we think about empathy, we think of it as kind of like a first aid kit. It's something we only bring out when there's death and destruction and hurt and grief and sadness. But nothing could be further from the truth. Anytime you're dealing with human emotion, it's always going to be on a spectrum. Always. There is no black and white when dealing with human emotion or human behavior. So when you think about the empathy that comes out for the sadness, for the darkness, for the grief, there's also empathy that comes out when things are happy, when things are going well, when things are exciting. Have you ever been in, say, a restaurant, a public place of some kind, where someone got engaged or had some really exciting news, and just the whole place seemed to light up just a little bit? The excitement just spread through the room. Or maybe you're just like hanging out with your family or your friends or just people you really like to be around. And the whole room just seems a little lighter, a little warmer, a little happier. Or maybe you're in a room where there's that one little kid, right, that laughs and like throws their head back and is just giggling. And the whole room just kind of seems to pick it up so that even the crusty old dude in the corner maybe cracks a smile. That spreading is called emotional contagion. And that's because it spreads throughout a population just like a virus. And emotion is contagious. The good and the bad. I mean, have you ever been in a meeting at work where someone was like yelling and screaming and like pounding on the table and the whole room goes quiet and nobody looks at anybody and everybody tries to be small? And then when they leave that meeting, they bring that feeling with them and it spreads. Emotional contagion is a real thing, and it's kind of the beginning of empathy. Because if you think of empathy as understanding another person, you're picking stuff up off of them, right? Whether it's a feeling or thoughts or just a general understanding. There's a contagion there. It's contagious. It spreads. The cool thing with empathy is that it isn't just a first aid kit. You can bring it out in the happy times. And if you're someone that has trouble with empathy, starting by practicing on the light side of things can be easier. And let's be honest, a lot of people have trouble with empathy. It's not an easy emotion, especially when you're dealing with the dark stuff. You know, like we said last time, if the idea is that you are in the suck, you are just sitting there with that person. It's a passive activity. You're not doing anything. You're just there. That's an uncomfortable place to be. And feeling that discomfort and allowing yourself to be in that discomfort takes a lot of courage, because you know what's coming and you do it anyway. That's important. If you're that person that is afraid of feeling those feelings, if you're that person that does have a trouble with the negativity, you can start with the positive. Research actually shows that we have 7 to 9 opportunities to connect with other people with empathy in a single day, any given day. And for my listeners who are leaders, you have more because you relate to people as groups. But that includes the positive side of things as well. So if you're just feeling like, I just can't, I do not want to feel these feelings, think of starting with the positive side. As we mentioned last week, the best place to start with empathy is self-empathy. A lot of us don't allow ourselves to feel the dark feelings, but we don't allow ourselves to feel the good feelings either. When you finally have the small victory, when you finally are really proud of something, when you finally do feel that self-pride, it's really important to feel the positive feelings for ourselves as well. Because if we don't feel them for ourselves, how can we feel them for anybody else? Take a moment right now and think about that. When is the last time you had a small victory? Maybe instead of saying, yeah, I got this, and feeling that positive emotion, you immediately jumped into the next project. You immediately jumped into the next thing. You didn't allow yourself to feel those positive emotions. You didn't practice self-empathy. You didn't give yourself that time to sit in that feeling with yourself. We can go into a lot of reasons why people do that, and we will. Not in this video, but we will. But start with yourself. Allowing yourself to feel good. Allowing yourself to say, yeah, you know what, I did pretty good with that. Or, yeah, I'm looking pretty foxy today. It's pretty good. Or, yeah, I did deserve that award. I worked really hard for that. Take a moment, start with yourself. Allowing those good feelings in make it a lot easier to deal with the feelings of discomfort. So let's talk about empathy on a broader spectrum, just because it's a little easier trying to get a hold of the positive, negative side of things. When we look at the side of the spectrum that's basically in the dark, people that have no empathy at all, none, we're talking about dark triad. And these people have become really buzzwordy in our society right now. That's kind of a problem because suddenly everybody is one of these. The dark triad, just so you know, are narcissists, psychopaths and sociopaths, and Machiavellians, are people that manipulate other people to their own good all the time, no matter how bad it hurts the other person. Think of like romance scammers, some politicians, that sort of thing. We throw these words around a lot in our society. And right now, narcissist is a big one. And the problem is you can have people that do narcissistic things or act in a narcissistic way, but aren't narcissists. People behaving badly are not necessarily narcissists any more than people behaving well are empaths or light triad people. And I'm not going to get into the differentiation between what I talk about and what society talks about as far as empathy and empaths. That's a different discussion for another day. But the point is if you're at the dark end of this spectrum, people that have no empathy at all, that are diagnosable, you're talking narcissists, psychopaths and sociopaths, and Machiavellians. So if we say human behavior is on a spectrum and we have stuff at the other end, if we have a dark triad, shouldn't we have a light triad? Well, the answer is yeah, we do, as a matter of fact. We just don't talk about it because they don't hurt anybody. But the three kinds of light triad people are people that are Kantian, have Kantianism, or just kind of a general benevolence for the human race, humanism, and faith in humanity. And these are the people that are going to have the most empathy. These are going to be your major leaders who actually see social good, who want economic good for others, who put others first without necessarily taking away from themselves. Remember last week we talked about boundaries. You can have empathy and do good for other people and still have boundaries. The fact that these people have that much empathy doesn't mean they don't have boundaries. It just means that they place the greater good above all else. So yeah, there is such a thing as a light triad. And yeah, we should be talking about it a lot more. We spend so much time in the mud and the dirt with the narcissists and the psychopaths because we're fascinated by them and they do damage. And we want to know how to avoid that damage. But why not bring out the light triad? Why not raise these people up as heroes? Why not model ourselves after them? So that's empathy on a grand scale, on a behavioral scale. What about using empathy for positive in a day-to-day world? Well, when is the last time that someone you were around had a fantastic thing to talk about, had a huge victory, got accepted into the right college, won a baseball game, did well at work, and you knew they were really excited about it, but someone else was just kind of like, oh, that's nice. Or my favorite, good for you. They didn't take time to enjoy that positivity any more than they probably would take time to enjoy that negativity. You're still being in that emotion. It may not be the suck. It might be the glory. You might sit in the glory with that person. Would that be so bad? We need to take time to celebrate the good things as well. Empathy is a hard emotion, or it can be. If you're really in a place with someone who's really having a hard time, it can be almost painful. But we need to be able to understand that and be part of that. So let's take this to the next level and talk about leadership. Because for those in leadership positions, this can be your entryway into actually having empathy and feeling empathy for your people, for the others around you, for your peers and colleagues, for associates, for other stakeholders, including the customer. How many times at work have you been at a birthday party or retirement party or anniversary, been with the company 10 years kind of thing, and the leadership didn't even bother to show up? Or if they did, they came long enough to grab a piece of cake and then left. They didn't take the time to join into the positive. The problem with being in leadership is someone is always watching. Whether you think they are or not, they are watching what you do and they're paying attention. And when you do that, someone notices. If you allow it to happen, now you're saying, well, nobody else needs to be in this celebration either. Well, then why bother? Let's talk about how morale drops. Let's talk about why loyalty drops. Because the positive is the easy stuff. This is where you get to say, thank you for your 40 years of service. This is really important. And maybe whoever you are, you're not a CEO. Maybe you're a med tech. Maybe you're a salesperson. Maybe you're housekeeping. Maybe you're anybody within the realm of this company, but you're still valuable enough for us to celebrate your achievements and what you've done for us all. But instead, everybody's just too busy. I don't want to celebrate it. I don't want to see it. Yeah, whatever. Good for you. Leadership, when you do this, you're setting the example that you are not willing to engage in empathy even when it's easy with the positive. I just saw this happen where someone who had been with a company for 40 plus years basically left even without a goodbye. The people she worked with every day took her out that night for a drink, but her leadership couldn't be bothered. She was a patient representative in a health system, and she had been working hand in hand with patients, sometimes very difficult ones, sometimes ones that had a lot of complaints, realizing that patients in general, they're probably there on one of the worst days of their life, a lot of them. Family as well, they're worried, they're scared. And as if the health isn't enough, the threat of economic disaster that some of these health conditions can bring on is terrifying. And this patient rep put in her time with these people, with empathy, without burning out, for 40 years. That should have been celebrated. That should have been noticed. And her leadership lost an opportunity to show that they actually cared about this person that had given their loyalty and their time and their vitality for that long. And this would have been easy. All they had to do is celebrate, enjoy in the positive things. This wasn't asking someone to sit in discomfort. You have to practice with the easy stuff. So you have to start with the positive. Remember, when we talk about empathy, we're not talking about feeling. We're talking about connection. Connecting through feeling is one thing. That's one way of experiencing empathy, but it's not the only way. When you lose those opportunities to make connections, you're losing opportunities to use your empathy. When you aren't using your empathy, you can't begin to attach to your emotional intelligence skills, which as a leader should be like breathing air. Your emotional intelligence skills are more important than your technical or mental skills. It just is. So if the idea of negative feelings, or feelings at all, are scary, start with the positive. That doesn't mean you have to be effusive. It doesn't mean that you have to be yay and grand gestures and whoa. And I mean, something as simple as sincerity. A sincere, yeah, good job. As opposed to an, oh, good job. Could make all the difference. And when your people see you do this, they'll start to emulate it. One thing that I haven't really mentioned too much yet is the role of empathy on culture. Corporate culture. You know, the one thing everybody seems to need to fix. Well, why is it broken in the first place? Culture always drips down from the top. Always. And whether you realize it or not, someone is watching. If you set your culture as one of no connection, that you don't care about your people, that you can't even be bothered to celebrate, everybody else is going to emulate you. So if you want an unempathic culture with people who don't really care about each other and really don't care about you or the company, that's how you do it. The really cool thing about empathy is when it's doing and it works well, it goes in both directions. You have empathy for someone to make that connection. They connect back. That's how it works. Connection isn't a one-sided thing. Connection is a two-sided thing. So if you connect with your people, they will connect back. If you set a culture of connection through the use of empathy, you're going to create the kind of culture you want within a company or an organization or a university or a baseball team. It doesn't matter. Any group of people. I keep saying this, but at the end of the day, it's about people. We connect with people. We work with people. It doesn't matter if whatever you do teaches students or makes widgets or creates cancer cures or is all AI. It doesn't matter. There are people in that equation at the top and at the bottom. At the very least, your customers, if not everybody else who's there. Creating that connection is the thing that's going to set our leaders apart in the future. Because AI can't make connection. Technology cannot make connection. Chat bots cannot make sincere connection. So for the leaders who can figure out how to do this and harness the power, they're going to be the ones to take the reins for what's coming next. The days of command and control leadership are gone. And anybody who's hanging on to them might as well also be hanging on to the buggy whip industry. We move forward, not back. So here's my challenge to you. Today, tomorrow, when you go on out about your life, whether you're a leader, just a member of society, leader of yourself, take a moment and notice those 7 to 9 opportunities to connect empathically with other people and try to use them. And start to use it on yourself. Pay attention to what you're feeling. Try to understand what you're feeling. Don't shy away from it because it's uncomfortable. A lot of things are uncomfortable. But if you can really pay attention and harness that empathy, you stand to gain a lot. Take the time. Pay attention to the 7 to 9 opportunities that will be there for you. And start to integrate empathy. Be one of the people that harness that power for the future. You'd be amazed at the inroads that you could make. Oh yeah. And it does raise profit, productivity, and innovation. I'm Dr. Melissa Robinson-Winemiller, and I'm looking forward to continuing our discussion.